The Great says that there are two kinds of music. There's healthy music and harmful. The healthy, he says, leads man up to the heights. But the corrupted music generates passions within the soul because it expresses worldly, carnal feelings and desires. These feelings may be very, very refined. It might be wonderful expressions of romanticism, sentimentality, idealism, but they are carnal expressions. The ecclesiastical chant of the church, on the other hand, is intended to generate compunction, contrition, and repentance, as well as hope and adoration and gratitude in its hearers. Only the liturgical music of the church, that music which has been sanctified by the use of generations of Orthodox Christians, can properly express the true spirituality of Orthodox Christian prayer. Only the ecclesiastical music of the church can express the secret movements of the heart. Those movements of the heart, that noetic inspiration, which is entirely different from the sentiments that are inspired and developed by secular music, as beautiful and refined as that secular music might be. It's for this reason, of course, I think we all understand, that musical instruments are excluded from use in Orthodox Christian worship. As beautiful as musical instruments may be, they are essentially secular. They can't participate in this movement of man on the noetic level. An interesting historical sidelight, I was amazed when I learned this, I'll just throw it out as a bit of trivia. The organ that we associate, so many of us associate so closely with Western church music, heterodox church music, was not an invention of Western Europe. The organ, as we know it as a musical instrument today, was invented in East Rome, in what we would call Byzantium. It was a product of the great mechanical engineering minds of Constantinople. But it was never used in the church. It was used as part of the ritual in the Byzantine court, in the East Roman court. It was very important there for certain court ceremonies. But it was always excluded from use in the church, with the understanding that its appeal was mainly emotional and sentimental. That it had no place in the noetic musical expression of the church. The story, at least as I heard it, is one of the East Roman emperors, I don't remember which, in an effort to curry favor with one of his Frankish counterparts, sent him an organ as a gift, an early generation small pipe organ. And the Franks were so taken with this instrument that they thought, this is wonderful, we need to put this in the church. And we have a whole development of Western church music stemming from that gift. But at any rate, I think we all understand this, that our worship is restricted to the human voice for this very specific reason, because of this exclusion of the sentimental elements in favor of the embrace of the noetic. I'd like to share with you just a few of the canons, the sacred canons of our church, as they touch directly on this subject of ecclesiastical chant. Specifically now here on those who are appointed to chant within the church and how they are to do so. Canon 75 of the Council in Trullo states, "We will that those whose office it is to sing in the churches do not use undisciplined vociferations, nor force nature by shouting, nor adopt any of those modes which are incongruous and unsuitable for the church. But they offer psalmody to God, who is the observer of secrets, with great attention and compunction. For the sacred oracle taught that the sons of Israel were to be pious." Notice that emphasis on the word compunction, that this is the essence of the chant of the church. Not to be entertaining, not to engage the attention of listeners by any means necessary, but to lead us to compunction and to repentance and ultimately to the glorification of God. And then the 15th canon of the Council of Laodicea. None shall sing in the church, save only the canonical singers who go up into the ambo and sing from a book. It's important to note here that I don't believe that the intention of this canon is to prohibit any congregational participation in the sacred song of the church, but to make very clear that the chant of the church, the ecclesiastical music of the church, is in its ultimate character prayer, and must be led by those who have been trained properly in leading the congregation into prayer. This is an issue of who it is that leads the sacred chant of the church, and in what manner they do so. Another important point to raise. The liturgical music of the church, the ecclesiastical chant of the church, does not have ethnic boundaries. This is part of why at the very beginning I wanted to reject the use of the term Byzantine chant, because it, for so many of us, immediately seems to restrict this musical tradition to a particular ethnic group or a particular cultural group. The music, the ecclesiastical chant of the church, is the music of the kingdom of heaven. It does not have ethnic characteristics. It is not Greek chant. It is not Arabic chant. It is not Russian chant. The church fathers nowhere in their discussion of sacred worship create ethnic boundaries for worship, stating that certain forms of worship are appropriate for one ethnic group and other forms for another. This was entirely antithetical to their way of thinking. For the fathers, you don't need me to tell you this, for the fathers, the church does not belong to any nation on earth. The church in each local Eucharistic community is an expression of the unending reality of the kingdom of heaven. And therefore, any ethnic considerations, in a sense, while they inform the identity of the people who come to make up that Eucharistic community, as a form of primary identification, those things are left at the door. When we enter the church to worship, we are Orthodox Christians entering into the kingdom of heaven. And the music that we employ in our worship is music that transcends any culture or any race. This music that we use, this ecclesiastical chant, is not only different in its fundamental character from the music of the secular West, it's different in many of its details and particulars as well. And here we could spend a great deal of time and go into a great deal of detail, but I just want to touch on a few essential points. The first point that will strike a listener immediately is that there are fundamentally different scales used for the ecclesiastical chant of the church versus that which is used those which are used commonly in Western music as we know it today. We'll notice some overlap, some similarities in some places. But the essential musical ethos of even the scales that are used are different.